Yo Ka chen jimbu gone jizong yen, ka zong do jeng do zar do zo, min ju jin je bo ran na, du zong zang je kun je ngo nye, ran zeng ju ge ngo zong dong zeb, Zava lama nam la gu zan zara zan je gung zava lama la gu zan gu ba jimbu zorwan de dom ne lo rangon drubat sen de dropa nyam bara zen je lo zo zo gun de zo je lama da re zo zo de jimi nu jin je gan de jim ro de jin herak Barway Dorje Guru Yoga, Rana Dondo Nije Topgyal Yin Derebe Jargon Gyamtso Kota Kyanga Nage Zilab Renzen Nage Gombang Jo Yo Ola Zo Tat Yang Tereng Gapso Ngazo Dorjin Chipo Den Chimo Tamji Je Ling De Tenyang Tambi Chu Je Drawing seven so Karazambo Dimbari, then do mixer the Tanga so Natsan the Pajar Torsalina Girin Matam Koyambo Kana Sona Namtanti la Karen drama the Gomagosa the Matsama Semna Lubo Chakando, then the Nato Sama Semna Lubo the Deva the Hiva, that then to Jegorwa, then to Talo Mambur and Mambo the Kangar Mambon Treat Salary, that the Rang Capsung so Hindan Zom the Chata Domba Jegil and Tunju Yuba. Tinduki Hendo Thames and also Domba Chigil Pa Yon Tin Dogo and that thing to be sent a few point of Koyam Bondo, then it tend to Tuji Shuata, then Samala Shobat Dele, then it tend to Pepa Somba Lake, Shobat Dele, then Naranda Tambichuje, the Geta Hiji Yopa, Kokap Zara, the Chin of Samala Dorjin Chip and Chimo on Tuji Shuayin. Teni ngarang kang tup goni ma chihi kang goni ma shokayen te chin apa tamji ngarang la tukcher me wa goni teni gomba thula pam teni sinro na teni tate simba kapso teni namka da nyambe simji tamji tende lana me bayan da bo zobu sanje jo kompan bo chil da jenda jeng go parsa ta terenga kapsa da pardi lama dorje jang kompan ko par da Kone Genesis Sanyam Bekono Sanjo, the Topgyal the choosing Bekunju, number double gone Simber Hyo. Tela Tene Kangi, Simber Savage Chuja Ramba Ne, Tanga so di Kunzang Palchen and Dinantene, Jerta, the number Sanje Chu, Young Guso, that also Sanga Dorje Tupa. Chepardo, then it 13 Lama teaching Barway Dorje, Sapter Gokor, as a Mambo Hita, and then Hokayori, Chinking and Chikayori, Sinking a Sinkayori, Yamni, Sinking and Yamni, see you begin and our re. Then the Ranga Kapso here, then it the Jack Medo Kala Papa Lakar, teaching Lama teaching Barway Dorje, then Lama Jambu Goni, Tachokari, then the Lama Bokor Nawa Latine. Then it called out to get your what they then it's a market, telo simple shows.
I'm very grateful for this opportunity to share Holy Dharma with all of you, my Vajra brothers and sisters. I feel particularly fortunate because now that the pandemic appears to be easing somewhat, we're all much more relaxed. Many restrictions have been removed, and it's easier to meet with one another. And finally, after so many years, we can be reminded of what one another's faces actually look like. So welcome and good morning. I'm grateful to have this opportunity to share Dharma with you according to the extent of my knowledge. So please relax and enjoy it and listen with the motivation of bodhicitta, which in this case is the thought that all beings without exception must achieve the state of Vajradhara. And it is in order to bring that about that I will listen to these teachings. Here at KPL, we study and practice in general all the Buddha's teachings, in particular the Vajrayana, and especially the profound treasures of Barway Dorje. That is mostly what we teach, what we listen to, and what we practice. Today, from among those teachings, what I'm going to begin sharing with you is the practice of calling to the Guru from afar, composed by the deity on whom our flower has landed, Barway Dorje himself. So please listen.
Teri ta terenga zo ta lama jambu gungo ni hyor ta lama sen ta lama se ya de nga zo gang hyokoyer sina lama se ya de chek de nga zo bu ge nambu chuju ge ta phaja ongsa den guru se ya de jaga ni ma le bari de lama se ya de le law hye ge mai mari lama se ya de ta nga zo ge gong na me ba, la na me ba, kyo de gyur ba. Tindru xie ke yinba cha ne la sir ya de. Ma na roa redo ke simji tamji la so ne san rao. De la gari la lab kor si na ngo ne tra ne rao de la na me ba, kyo de gyur ba sir ya de. Che nga so tra thombo de na ya ya le le la na me ba, nga ke phaka kan khar de la na me ba, tindru xie ma re. Dom gombo ngone rangyang thongso domben gom nelo de dekona nje tobang on de gyorso ta deli yin nga so pho tong ro gang yo ma re wa deli yin tong ro sa medu la na me ba che wa de la se ya de ta dru che la ko ho le ri la se ya de deni ma se ya de ma ta del te ne de tong ni ta wa del te ne ko juma ma yin ba ke 대화 자 카점 체점 그 제와 그 책, 제 나가 주로 제와요 세계점 내초 딩컨도 세계점 나 주로 간도 세계점 저소도 군족 그 제와 세야 요리 내감도 제기직라 가 제기직라 제 제완 사사 내감 점보라리까 값스 I love you 제선도 든지 해가 말이 든지 제와 자완이는 말이 겨와 메바 띵 마존 로원 남칸타다냐 바 셈지 탐지라 쳇버 자완이는 메바 뿌제사 메바 내 나이 효리 내 인기 효리 내 나기 니야리 내 콩 나기 니 다야리 서양로 자완이는 메바 자니 차단고 띵니 파 자르송 오늘 예 도만이 산조그 심바탐지 산제가 산조그 셈데 예 도만이 다니 차단 요 말와 든두케가 자르송니 주마마에 바 셈텔라 마 서야데 든 로아 셈지 탐지가 아마 셈 부초바 든두케가 마임 바서나 라마 서야레게 세데 따야오리 덴데 보게 나주 나서가 파이니 르모지 서야 거데 가야 고야마가 소스 파이니 Lama Barway Dorje Guru Lama Pemam Jungne Jesondra. That Tundrike, Lama de Pe Haleba Heke, Sachimbo Hila, Zeko Yorimato, Teas, Lama Sayas, Checoze Serbo Combo, Silla, Lama Sayakam Bugul, Taniri, Zawan in the Rio Mari. And Lama Saya, the Sujula, you, me, also Chico Mari, Serbo de Conda Majula, Lama Uso, Che Tambalambala Conda Majula, Lama Uso. 제 가양 저 고제라 저 파차르 쯤 고제라 kondamal yula semna laman nedeus ngaso ha ko mari ena bog loksor chela den losam dasam yotsan ma tron de date nganchu sudur moje gaduga kapsena ta lama si cho sone ta des ma hison sokena sonbog jamne kyosa de hwog namhi Gyorsaga Lama si chose on a losam does losam so on the Jeja Yoga dela, that Tundriki maintain la lama zum bu cho zon losam da sam ma tun de drop lama se ya nga so ta ka yo re de la lama se ya de ti cho ko re ngoma ba ya losam da sam de nga chon da nga da na ta losam da sam ma bo de ga de so de ga je ngo cha ji ke ja re losam so sam se ya de ji rok tong de za long ge tong de ji rok ya de ko ni ma re la ko nim chi ya je la ko ko long ponjo ge zhang ga dang de ni di ponjo ge zhang ga dang ko di jo wa de la za long take some ro dang re ge ko lo som so som na ma yin zhe ge de gom son dor jian cha ge gom ba sang ye tap song de den ge hi ge den ge yo re lo som so som se ya de lo som so som na an zu chen ga so chem ge kala ya bo re tin de so sa Then ko ma dong de jo lo sam da sam ga lama chim bo ri je song da ke yang pa cha wen nan da ko sa ma ri de da nga so tin ri ki tan ji cha song ri then the lama se ya de da meng de ngo ne be na thông bộ ki ri ma do chu chin thông bộ ki ri da nga ri ma do ki de ya sa ma ri na nga so de long ba long sem pin la lama do de ko lama ri de yu ki ma wa che ma nam jo la so tin ri ki ri then the lama se ya tha ni de ta tin ro ma bo ki ki kan hi jo ri de ta de cham ke cho ji bi
The type of liturgy and practice this is, calling to the Guru from afar, is called Lama Jungbu in Tibetan. And Jung means from a distance or afar, and Bu means to cry out to or to call to. But what we need to look at first of all is the first word, which is Lama. And this, of course, is a very commonly used and commonly known term, characteristic of Tibetan Buddhism. And in most cases, Lama said, it appears to have been used traditionally as a translation of the Sanskrit word guru. So the implication being that a lama is a spiritual teacher. However, if we actually look at the etymology and derivation of this word, we'll discover that it actually is referring to something far greater than our common everyday use of it. It's made up of two syllables. The first, la, means high or higher, or sometimes highest. And the second syllable, ma, which basically turns la into a comparative, also has the connotation of a mother. So let's look at the first syllable. We understand the word la here to mean not just high or higher, but highest or supreme. So when you refer to someone by this title, you're calling them supreme. Does that mean that that's why we put them on thrones? No, it doesn't refer to that. What is supreme is one thing. It is when someone has directly seen the primordial Buddha, when someone has directly realized their own true nature. Since that is the supreme realization, that is what justifies this first syllable, supreme. And that relates to the second syllable, ma, because that view, that authentic view and realization of emptiness naturally has the affect of we would say the emotional value of unfabricated compassion. For example, like a mother has for her children. But in this case, this compassion that arises from that realization is far greater than and utterly different from what we normally mean when we use terms like liking, love, affection, and compassion. We all say things like, I love you, I miss you, I like you, I feel for you, I'm sorry for you, all these things. But what they refer to in all cases is extremely ephemeral and ultimately rather shallow. These things are shallow and ephemeral in two ways. First of all, they are not unchanging. We can't predict how we're going to feel about others in the future. And secondly, they are partial. They are not universal. We have friends and enemies, and friends can become enemies, and so forth. And finally, they are a little bit fake or fabricated. They're drummed up by circumstances. So, Ma here means an entirely different level of love and compassion. One that is unreservedly and universally focused on all beings without any change and without any distinction being made between friends and enemies. It's interesting that in the international community, we often use the term Rinpoche, or precious, for those we consider to be what we would call high lamas. And by comparison, we use the term Lama only for kind of low-grade spiritual teachers. But this is not at all true where I was born. Where I was born, we hardly ever used the term Rinpoche. We use the term Lama the way people now seem to use the word Rinpoche. We wouldn't, over there, say Bardo Rinpoche. We would say Lama Barway Dorje. We wouldn't even probably say Guru Rinpoche. We would say Lama Padmasambhava or Lama Padmakara. So for us, we used the title Lama much more stipulatively and much more rarely than it is used nowadays. Nowadays, people apply the title Lama to just about anyone, especially a Tibetan, who is wearing either saffron robes or the colorful robes of a tantrika. And we say, oh, that's a Lama. Look at how they're dressed. That's how you can tell. But we never did that. We never referred to somebody just because of their monastic vocation or their practicing the Vajrayana as a Lama. Traditionally, there was only one exception to this. And this exception arose in the 18th and 19th centuries when the formal institution of the 3-year retreat was formalized and somewhat institutionalized under the 8th and 9th Tashi Rinpoches. Now, so since that time, there has arisen the notion that you can use the title Lama for anyone who completes a 3-year retreat. Which really meant, in the social, practical sense, that when someone did a 3-year retreat, they were thereafter considered qualified to perform certain ceremonies for the community, such as ceremonies for the dying and dead and other public services. And that was really how the term was meant to be applied. At the same time, this 3-year, it's not actually 3 months, it's 3 years and 3 phases of the moon. So it's supposed to be 3 years and a month and a half, but it's become 3 years and 3 months, so it's easier just to say that. This period of retreat is not random. It comes from the understanding in the Vajrayana that if someone takes only wisdom breaths for that period of time, for 3 years and 3 phases of the moon, they could, theoretically, achieve the state of Buddhahood, the state of Vajradhara, in that time. And in recognition of this, we use the title Lama for people who complete a 3-year retreat. But we don't actually expect people who do 3 retreats to emerge as Vajradhara. So therefore, it's not, when we call someone Lama, in that sense, it doesn't have the weight or significance that it does in the context of calling to the Lama or Guru from afar.
Oh, Tawari, Teningaso, that Sangma Lama Milis, Yomari, Samala Lama Yori. That Lama Minkia, you say, but the Kanta Lama Minki, you know, Lama Seria Tengasoke, Mone Traneke, Tambo Lama Talankeba, Parda Lama Tinankeba, Tamagunju, Sablankeba, Tambo Lama Talankeba, the Piki Chimbori, Tata Chata Loan Chibana, Simara on Sony. That carries in the Tambo Lama, the Tago, the Yabu, Changaranga Ta. Lokakere, there's a Tivai Omari, Yana Davakake, Yana Lokake, Lama del Ta, Majining Alatre, Narang Kyar, Kejahi, Lamsang Tebache Gomari Lamatella. Lamsanta, Mala Marpana again, call Lamsang Tebache, Telonaro, Tenduraina, Tena Netan Kari, Karwas on the Kari. Rimchi Yen is on the Tambolama that they start from the Yabor Ta. Then the thought Sally Gila, Talama taken Zebantele Carisina, One Jordo Mevara, Sound of Matona, Sanghagawan Huta, Kalekavari Tarita, Sanghagawan, Tangaso de Tama, that the Hakokuyori, Tele Yichita, Tetsam, Yobaki Tony Gori, then the Lama de Tambo Yabokitana, Matana, Lama Mata, Tontonga zone, Tontona Yeri, Tontoni Hejamato Yomari, Lama take a lam lopa the Jektina, Chora. Called Denis on the Lamlo, Church Havari. Then the Lama de Tambo Kandando, Juba Salap Kandando, Juba Kandando, Lama de Ngatin and Delangarang, Trolley Hika Hia and Dota, Mondo, Koranga Yamni Kandrisindo, Koranga Katsis and Yamni Sin, Zarzondo, Here Kandando, Teparamba Congo Rugini called Zejudone, Tening Azoke, Otundrisina, Tambolama Talan Keba, Teni Tezar Tatsard. Parda Lama Tin and Kebani, Tenitan Jorwa Zavani Meva, Tesam Meva, Tata Tina, Lama de Tin. Lama de Tin Charlin Jok in Tama Gongu Lamdu, Lama de Gang Sumba Teta, Sozo Zik the Tenico, Debatana Muda Dimbagon in Yamni Sin, Nan the Yamni Sin, Nataba Tamji Combat Topji Yobateko, Tindi Yen, sound Tatu, Dingsi Lone, Tenico. Lama take a council, but I'm the Lama take a Kuhuna, Satsatabana, Yamnisi, Tabakita, Tindriki Gohoyori. Then do Lama Barway Dorje Raina, Correct Tindri, Tatanga Lama Barway Dorje, 13 Lama Barway Dorje, Correct Rana, Tindri Yembasana, Take Lama T, Gang Nancy, Takare to Pin Sarahag Sonly. Then Teta Lama needs Sarateke, Lame Neba Gang Yingla Hos. Lapan Tana Neba Tentondas, Labak Telaneba in the Tentonagi, that Tendri Young use on it, to be Sarag song. That day into Nazog Lama de Tambo Tendriki Hako, see, Tini T taught in it, Tenita, Nazo Goki or Teni Lama Drumni Capsula, Teni Tandi Lama Jambu, the meet the Marawakiri, Teni Ma Montu in the Tenima. Naranga Hua in Talama Jambu de la Yon Rimboke, Kantar Mari, Dena, Tati Baro Baroni, Kanchiki, Jinta Tayu in the Teni, Ma Hokayan, or Tundrika Lama Gongju, the Nazoga Lin Top Gold, the Tendra Lama de la Karis in the Tatakoni Kibanagi, read to Jinsara, Lantenagi. Data Lama T. Juban the Lam Takaris in the Juban the Lama T. Mukona, Latin, Jubat, Saladin Jogo, the ten the Lama Jambu Go, the Guba Jimsi, Lama Jambu, the Karigo, the Guba Jimsi. Teta Tene Lama, the Kariris in a tin tap, the countries in the song is in the Yan Lama Tinta Muyente, Hesamen song. Lama Tinta Muyen song, Hesamen song, Hesa Gomari, Lama, Hesa go Lama Danti Lama the Timaron, Savani Tingomari. Charangarang Sonam Go Sabak Cheat, Hesaven, the Tingarang Sosa Cheat, Rimato Jag, Lama Corona Hesa, the Shasa Margondona, Nyotori, Rotogamari Yoyogopa, Tilama de, and Trachimbo Ja, Dimambo Ja, Mixar Shasa Land of Godana Kalekarorita. Then Narang Gondona, Naranga Lego, Naranga Lega Lena Yabori Sonam, Lama Corona de Gubandona, Tati Lama de Chalomari. Lama Tinta Muyen, the Hesamen, Songati Teri. Lama dropped up mu yen de son de meng song ta mu gu cha du lama jang de yo ma nye sa le yo de mu mi na lama nye sa le yo jang lama jang de yo de lama mu ya po ki yo na lama jang le yo jang lama nye sa le yo de o tindu ke ge to ni ta lama jang bu dru go ho de ri te barwa dor je khon ra na tindu ke ge je bu chi de den ba ke jor cha wa ge tindu ke ge je bu chi din ke ri te de nga so ge mu de son de na ta tu na ya lam lo pa lam ro ka ma re thế số số cái manjo na manjo rồi mà chứ làm mà không ra cái người cái này tuân nam yang à so làm nổi rồi mà đi tuân rồi cái chi về chuyện bộ gọi rồi bộ chuyện người số số này ta tuân rồi cái để chỉ làm mà bảo đồ gì đi thế nên ta đi làm mà giảm bớt cái số mà mình thu này thì ní cái gì.
Nowadays, everyone has a Lama. They have someone they consider their Lama. Again, there are some who have not yet chosen their Lama. And those who have not yet chosen their Lama need to understand that there has to be a threefold or three-step process in doing so. The first step is examination. The second step is establishing the relationship. And the third is coming to grasp or understand the Lama's wisdom. So the saying about this is, in the beginning, be skillful in examination of the Lama. In the middle, be skillful in how you relate to the Lama, and at the end, be skillful in coming to grasp the Lama's wisdom or realization. The first of these, examination of a Lama, regardless of their rank or position, is extremely important. And it is a mistake to omit this stage in the process, because only through a thorough examination and scrutiny of the prospective Lama can you gain the type of confidence in them and faith in them that will never be plagued by doubt. How do you examine the Lama? You watch them. You observe their behavior, listen to what they say. You ask about them. You ask about all the rumors, all the stories, all the tales, all the accounts. You ask, you learn as much as you can. And you look at them. You look carefully to see whether or not you can have confidence in that person. So it is always taught that one should not rush into hasty faith, because hasty faith is not founded on a strong bedrock of evidence. Now, there are exceptions to this. Historically, most famously, Milarepa's instantaneous faith in Lord Marpa. But that's a bit of a special case, because Milarepa was an extraordinary person, someone who progresses all at once or extremely rapidly, and that's different. For most of us, this period of examination is essential, because once you've decided that a certain person is your Lama, and especially once you've established faith in them and received any form of Vajrayana empowerment from them, the relationship is locked in. You have samaya with them, and it's too late to examine them or question them at that point. The examination has to precede that type of reliance. So it's very dangerous to accept someone as your Lama without a period of intense and careful scrutiny. It's said to take a Lama without examination is as foolish as drinking poison. Because if the Lama turns out to be unqualified, then they cannot possibly teach the authentic or correct path. They will teach an incorrect path, and following them, you will follow an incorrect path. That's just the way it works. So first of all, before taking a Lama, scrutinize them and use every resource at your disposal to learn whether or not they are qualified. The second step is the relationship. And this is what's meant when it says, secondly, or in the middle, be skillful in relating to the Lama. The key point of the relationship here is to have no doubt, no hesitation. But you can only have that complete freedom from doubt, complete freedom from hesitation or reservations because of the preceding examination. Without the preceding examination, it's going to be fake, and nothing will be very, very deep or profound. The third and final step is really to get it, to get the point, to realize the Lama's wisdom. And you do that by practicing what the Lama has taught you without doubt. The freedom from doubt, the unreserved devotion, was established in the second step based on the first step. The third step is to practice what they have taught you with that type of unreserved devotion free of doubt. And what that does is it causes your teacher's realization to be precisely replicated in you, as though you were a satsa coming out of a mold. Now, Terchen Barway Dorje, of course, is a perfect example of this, both in his attitude toward his own teachers and in his qualifications as a master. What we attempt to do is to replicate within ourselves his realization. We do so by practicing his teachings and by praying to him, as in this case. About this, Saraha said, when accompanied by the Guru, he can reveal reality to you like something placed in the palm of your hand. Now, accompanied does not necessarily refer to physical proximity. It means when you relate to the Guru with devotion. Especially since devotion, freedom from doubt, is the key to realization and especially to replication of the Guru or Lama's realization, we pray to our Lama. And we always use, at some point or another, in such prayers, this type of liturgy, calling to the Lama from afar. Now, we need to understand, however, the difference between devotion and demonstrations of respect. The term Lama uses shesa, which means using honorifics in language, but in a wider sense it refers to showing or demonstrating your respect through social conventions and physical gestures. And we need to understand that being spoken to in respectful or flowery honorific language is very, very boring for any authentic or qualified Lama. An authentic or qualified Lama will not enjoy being placed on a throne. They will not enjoy being spoken to with obsequiousness. Probably the best way to translate this line is, it is devotion, reliance upon the Guru, relating to the Lama, is done through devotion, not through obsequiousness. I think obsequiousness is probably the best term. All of this being put on thrones and being, beckoned with musical instruments and being talked to in dulcet tones and with flowery language is very, very boring for a qualified Lama. So why do we do it? We only do it so that we can accumulate merit. We accumulate merit by being respectful. We accumulate merit by being nice. We accumulate merit by building thrones and making Lamas sit on them. But it's not fun for them. It's not really doing very much except helping us accumulate merit. What helps us the most is to pray to your Lama with devotion. And it's said about this, and this is important in this context because this type of liturgy is called calling to the Lama from afar. When we have devotion for our Lama, regardless of physical distance, they are close to us. They are not far away. And when we lack devotion for our Lama, they could be sitting at our bedside and they're still very distant. So in this case, the Lama to whom we are calling from afar is Barway Dorje, who is, to say the least, worthy of being called to in this way, because he is essentially the same as Guru Rinpoche himself.
Teni nga tso tsangma la tata jambo changjang hi jana tsangma la te tsang lama la samno tangtang ka kone norwa mambo yu sipari kare se na lama ka gang sungba ka chute ma ke nyintu ne ya ke sangha dorje tekba parda gang sungba de manyo la matyo ba gang sungba de chute ngone tse chek to gang ta ya tse chek to nyamni se ma to na 같이 탑탑가 탄참 거 탄주던 탄다 탄참 니가 값을 준비선 탑박해 거는 냠니 시네 소소로 도방한테 결과를 대마제는 라마가 추송의 년도가 추송나 사보만다 야특바 침보 추송나 사보만다 야상학 추송나 델레 사브자 델레 녀사 델레 노사 마보히야 요리데 해나 나와레 철니 가야 마름나 사니 라마의 유침보 파히 드르세는 가 간결화리 마서 강가리 마서 세야르 거 계자망보리 엄무시바 말이 대나 대 소소라 강자가 경우리 마도 저 큐달라미 경자원이니 리오 말이 가르에서는 접점 말아리 바타바에나 조키 검리 냐우슬랑리 니시신리 라마 조키 검도 큐 사보라 강 삽잡히인데 와다 니드는 조사우르 삼 니드도 가 공의 강 용대 맞게 바로 대도 말바로자를 띵어와 띵네 베미시바 가와 첨부지 그 정도와 다 말바로자를 띵바나게 양라마 서야데 투규의 삼바다 제와 유구 존 히에코데 라마가 투규의 삼바 제와데 유미 서야데 간루레라 따고리르신 히람 노보고곤 따고리 히람 노보고곤 간루 따고르신 라마 콘레게 동다리다소 코그 나라 창저야다 동야다 드야세야데 코그 동다리다소 나 로마가 동다리다 삼네 히랍고 제규고레 마도제게 코 동다 기보리가 동득시 라만달 닝게만도 삼바만도 코데 컨트롤제로 그 직접 코나 나도 동거도德根도 삼니 삼노 당야나 다양 lokta jeli ke ni kan jong gari je jip sam marpa lo zang de cha gyong de zewa marpa lo za ke samba de zewa le sut je ke rinda da trawa tindri ke ka marpa lo za thugyo da samba de zewa yore de malare ba dongde khona se ne char khona ji ne thar ngam bar zo ba sama je par de tindri se yore ba kable ha jang ji je yore de marpa lo za khora ke thonda de re mewa de malare ba ka ha ko ko re de zewa de 다게 칸 잠보르게 양 잠보르히네 삼바르게 잠보르 카 기보게 잠보히데 딜라마데 투규다 산조게 생활레리시나 나조 히 총니 히가 말에 히라르 베지 이거는 마도 제게 코랑게 돈다로 요저게 초라나 칸 잠보히게 요 학고야 요 말에 띵띵 학고야 요 말에 가르에서는 냐라다 칸 잠자오래 냐라 칸 잠자 레도게 올라 잠보르다 slag 다다리 자와르가 그 올라 빼 nombo리 끼양 nombo리 로 동차 자는다 요래 냐라게 갈레 마페 경아데 효데 지보 요조 힘 망보 요래 근데 창마데 상하게 냠니 시니 갑슬 히럽 nom보 왕보 야랍게 추가 연설야데 공원에 자네게 히럽 nom보게 돈이 제바 요나 되니 라메 제송데 드럼네 냠니 수나 되니 그 또바데 요번 요를 제주 네바 찐게 담비 추를 사모히 된르게 리 어야 다테인데 담마모히 게다테 메히 데니 데리 데니 데인데 단디 마 휴바이나 달라마 장부 살람 녀는 거 짝교 서야될 살람 녀는 거 짝교 서야돼 나초게 대아서 호게 짝교는 파네 살람 답릭 때마르게 살람 거 토가 마리 냐를 짝좀 피와나 이게 그 대바다 무 이치 섬 디나니 그 댐도 이치 나한테니 이치 댐보 던리게 그 토네 라마텔라 유나 그 짝교 하장의 짝교 야휴 살람 녀던 거네 다 녀던 살람 라마 살람 녀던 거 저 짝교데 다 던리게리 디 짝교데 히랍을 띠는 용거리 히랍메니 용토가 말이 히랍을 땜베 대바다 무 케바르킹 그 송바테리 던리게 고홀데 대다와 당던 이치 때마 남바 섬게 나한테니 이치 때마 열미게 그 돈에 되네 라마 잠부데 돈에 되네 던리게 고홀데 마도 제가 대가자야 아니요 사호 르데 나게만 부디나 나가게 랑동 르티아 제가 조로지 부디나 좀피 유 세바레데 람상 고탑 갈레 카워리 대도 니자게데 드르케게 짝겨라 고고레 따테 고데 멘텔라 따 드르케 따도 드르레사 공다 마보르
To be honest, many people may be somewhat mistaken in how they relate to the Guru. The idea of relating to a Guru or Lama is to practice, to actually practice as best you can, one-pointedly, if possible, the teachings they give you, starting with the Shravakayana and all the way up to and including the Vajrayana. And to keep them in mind all the time. Sometimes people misunderstand this and they think that it's sufficient simply to hear the teachings, to hear the Dharma. And they think, well, if I hear the common vehicle, that is helpful, and if I hear the Mahayana, that's even more wonderful, and if I hear the Vajrayana, I'm all set. The problem with relating to the Guru or the Lama as a source of information that can be heard is that nothing's going to happen. If we don't practice, we're not going to change. And if we don't change over time, we will eventually come to notice this. And we'll think, nothing's happening. This stuff doesn't work. And at that point, we'll think, Dharma doesn't work, or this Lama's teachings don't work. But the problem is not Dharma or that particular Lama's teachings. The problem is simply that we didn't practice. If we don't practice, nothing is going to happen. And we only have ourselves to, we could say, to blame or to accept responsibility for that. In the case of Jetsun Milarepa, he went to a teacher before he met Marpa and heard Dzogchen teachings from him. And the teacher from whom he heard them said to him, these teachings are so profound that if you are a disciple of acute faculties, simply hearing them is enough. If you hear them in the morning, you'll be Buddha in the morning. If you hear them at night, you'll be a Buddha that night. Such an individual does not even have to practice. And so nothing happened to Milarepa. When he met Lord Marpa, he had a very, very hard time. Marpa subjected Jetsun Milarepa to extreme austerities. But what is important in this, in the comparison of these two relationships, the one Milarepa had initially with the Dzogchen master, and the one he had subsequently and for the rest of his life with Jetsun Marpa, is what is behind the behavior of the teacher. And the guiding factor is the presence or absence of love and compassion within the master. But we have to be very, very smart. We have to use all of our intelligence to understand this correctly. We have to actually ask ourselves the question, regardless of how a teacher behaves toward us, we have to ask the question, are they saying and doing this for their own benefit or for my own benefit? If, having entered into a Dharma relationship with a teacher, we come to the conclusion that they're doing whatever they're doing for their own benefit, then we've developed antipathy for them, and the relationship is not going to be fruitful. For example, Marpa was as compassionate and as loving an individual as has ever existed. But in his behavior toward Milarepa, he frequently beat him up, was verbally and physically abusive. He did not, for a long time, display any signs, overt signs, of love and compassion. He seemed to be making Milarepa do endless tasks that were arduous, and Marpa made no claim that these orders he gave him were for Milarepa's benefit. In fact, Marpa pretended that they were for Marpa's benefit. But Milarepa was smart. He understood that Marpa was not making him build and take apart tower after tower for his own benefit. Milarepa understood that Marpa's harshness and abusiveness was for Milarepa's sake and not his own. So we have to be very, very intelligent in examining the behavior of a teacher. And we can't simply assume that the more superficially benevolent or kind a teacher is, that they are the more unselfish and devoted to our benefit. A teacher might speak kindly, even sweetly, to you. But they might be doing that for their own benefit, in order to realize their own ambitions, their own agenda, their own projects. A teacher might be harsh, but they might be harsh for your good. You have to examine this very carefully. There is a saying that in the Bardo, hell looks warm and fuzzy. It does. Someone who is going to be born in a hell is attracted to it because it looks very, very congenial. If they're going to be born in a hot hell, they feel cold and they think, oh, finally, someplace I can get warm. If they're going to be born in a cold hell, they feel hot and they think, oh, finally, someplace I can cool down. The light is soft, it's comforting, it's inviting, it seems gentle and congenial and familiar. Whereas the brilliance and uncompromising majesty of the 5 Buddhas is terrifying. Their light is so bright that you, since you may not realize you don't have physical eyes, it's blinding. And the sounds they make are so loud that it is as though 1,000 thunderclaps occurred all at once. So we can't assume the things that are warm and fuzzy and gentle and sweet are trustworthy. Now, the title of this particular liturgy or prayer for calling to the Guru from afar is called a hook bringing blessings into my heart. The term hook, of course, refers to the hook of the Guru's compassion, which picks us up, fishes us, as we would say, out of samsara because of the ring of our own faith and devotion. So it's not like the hook you use to capture and kill a fish. It's the opposite. It's a hook of rescue. And from our side, we need to cultivate the receptivity to that hook, something the hook can catch. And that is a ring, an unbroken ring, that consists of 3 things. Faith, which itself is threefold. Devotion, which consists of both interest and appreciation. And belief. Belief is very important. If we don't believe that the Guru and their teachings are authentic, then we're going to be hindered by that. Secondly, Lama said, we have to have wonderment, awe. We have to feel a sense of awe based on seeing a little bit of the Guru's realization and feeling appreciative of them. And finally, we have to have aspiration. We have to want to replicate the Guru's realization. We have to want to emulate and become just like the Guru. So if we have these types of faith, awe, belief, and aspiration, and they are unchanging because they're on a stable foundation of prior examination, then reciting a prayer like this will help. But simply singing it, either alone or in a group, the way a child sings a song they've heard on the radio, is not going to do anything. And that might happen, Lama said. You might actually just pick this thing up through peer pressure or liking the melody or something and start singing it. But if there's no solid faith and devotion, not much is going to happen.
다 대인들 가서 근디 라마 잠분 동케라 땡사레 히람 nom보다 또바 때자레 하고디레 따와 하고디 든르케가 토니 단제 때서 충성와 든르게 토니 라마 잠분 동야 린도라 대인들 따완 통보라 나시 때서 따바람장 혀탑 성한다고 나시 라마로발라 혀탑 성한다고 나시 라마로발라 혀르세야도 거드 가레 조르탄 데니만 동제 캬차데 나시 라마로발라 혀르콜 강나와 탐지 तसो 강때바 탐지 라마데 가사 가라 그래서 가사 가라 그래 강나와 탐지 소소가 강나와 탐지 라마거 강투바 탐지 라마송 강통와 탐지 강 삼바 탐지 라마 토서 하고서나 되네 라마랑세 일미 이스라야데 디캅선 린 콜리 디캅서 셈지다 초랑게 셈야 일미 린도 콜리 라마다 초랑랑세 일미든 디데바 찌보 마리 디캅 데두 셈지게 셈다 초랑게 셈니 일미든 린도 콜리 체퍼자와니네 밀 디캅서 깝데두 리스라야데 고 가레세나 디데바데 서존다와 마리 모마베게는 한 추니 가서가 라마토다 랑가 셈다 군드 잠본의 존데 가서가 톡 예미든 리데오들이 가서대 하고토고 말이와 다른 가서 제 정보 인사는 삼는 땅거때 정도죠 요 말이 가서 오늘 삼는 책 땅에나 탑교르게 코랄은 참는 디오들 다 셈지 대다 탐지 나다 셈지 카카에서나 오늘 예도만의 셈지다 좋니 카카리요 말이 셈지 derge님 로고용을 찹지 derge님 예대버기 분님 제연제자도 다 찍든 리차들이 찍바리 제연 서야데 카도 까마르게 돈이 제연슬라고 말이 코랑게 예도만이 고 동니 공어와 동니 닝지 송도juk 봉어와 디르미든 리데오들이 데라 리세코들이 데인도 달라마 로바드 든르게 캬르톱고들이다 라마 세야데 디캅 데드 라마 살람 닝라 효즈 효운코들이 가레서 라마 살랍데 닝라 효운이 깝살라 나 단젠데마 행 단젠데마 행마탐나 단젠데 총마탐나 란동 이즈글로데 총마죠나 라마 살람양 교교마데 심질라 닝게 제죠 말이 다 내가 건적 그차니 또 저때서의 이모션라고 그 정크 세크레데 진짜로 띵차디 야르콜리 진짜로 띵차 야르차 콘로차리 다지 닝게된 로차리 다지 스타납된 무든 로차리 데리 마송와 등치드 딘바랑아서 고홀린 겨와메 바게 데고나 단젠데 켜고다 라마라 데바 이치 같이지 계속나 심진을 닝게 초나게 단젠데 대세 행로 콜레 단젠 라로 콜레 파 단젠 제사가 열요 말이 나세야게 제사 열요 말이 인기 번좀 벌로 제사데 라마데 라 데바다 무 제사데 이 희정원이 되니 나세야데 다파 몬로 콜레 데인데 다마 히 건데니 아호 세제 자와 건제 이 희정 털레세 아호 세야데 다고 아 세야데 다 동다 망보 희야와데 조바 김보공어 안에 인도 건제 초 손네 고 담보니 건 신경을 침주는 힘나 아대다가 찍보가 동다가 가서 차상마데 짠로 거리를 짜사 용산라고 아동 아예 찍보데 동다가 가서 그 주용수 조바데 디토니마 산제가 송부 주용수 조바데 데니가 주용수 조바데 디토니 마용와게 거 자텔라티니 게다 힘로 톱거리 데인도 아호 세야데 담부 거리 원 차와라게 무 에마호 젤란다오다 무단다오 데 몸자와게 생다와다 파자인서 아호 세야데 호존 달라마는 무은 거리 라마는 무두 끼쳔보고 분나 라마 거 말이 니기 지니 분나 라마가 거 말이 저데 겜보 쳔보 효쳔보리 가사카타는 분나 라마가 거 말이 라마가 거거는 대바리 효쳔보리 때는 끼직만 지고라 라마가 things 로 잡아나기리 로 핑하지 나저게 다디 자긴 로서 로 폴로 몰로도 동저디 데로 말어 대나기 전로 거들 세제 자와 건지 희전 털레세 인효 자와 세동 제바 탐지 내마원 다 두섬지 제고 인의 요바 자와 세동 제바 탐지 이시전 터텔 송니데 다때 진 나서가 라마데 데리 좀 바로 돌지 다 이힌 터텔 송 터텔 되는 모남 또 보지 답이야리 나서 담보 토마니 나서 사적 셈기네 모남 답 딘색 디 트르프 김치지 gyamtso 디 로가르 디 트르프 로가르 무소 다다 도르진창 이르메바 도르지차다 바로 도르진이 카칼한테 세계지 요 말에 Dorje Chan Sayad, Hombor, Pataring Bor Yo, Barway Dorje Sayad, May Zosa Tata, Naso Chile, your body, some of Tang Yomari. Muso Dorje Chan Salapje, take and Teleja Rogar, take a repak, Tsar, take and Teleja Rogar, te, da Carman Jimmy Chuji Singete, raise, da Chino, so da Soran de Code, tate Carman Jimmy Chuji Singete Chinos, da Korean Sintam, Yadama, Chukatan, Longatan, Trugatan, that and Ma, Son de. Kazakalan Kang Namatam, Lama Roba, the Hartsardu, Hargo, Kang Namatam, the Karen the King, the Kondo, Korea the Kong Hela, and the Korea the Kong Mahela, Korea the Kong Kabukin, and the Korea the Injecti Mayala was second. Temari, then I talk a Namdoki about it. Kang Nawatena Lama use, Gurumboji Sonro, they Kong Sun Tonga, Sun Tonga. Tepa change Kanza Pomon, the Pemjo, Kanyama, Gonya use. Ngai tselan dentong yu mari tedi merin dan pem jong re so teba de dim merin dan pem jong re so nang chale lama tene yori ma to je ga ta lama de ka hi tha ring bo lo tio te trogo tong do ko sa yo nge te char ma le ne yang ne te cha tong do ko sa yo sam tindri ke ga mari lama tene ka sa ka le yori chu chu kai lama de ta zuko zok ko lama de nga chun jik ti ga ma nang wal thong ko de chu ko ngo wa de lama tene Kasa Kala Chapdi Yorimado, Zat Sekin, you the Meto, Chamber, Chat, some of the dirty Taravi, you the Lama can come now a chap the order. Tell Lama can now say, Lama now time the Lama Roar, the Harder say at the Terry Mato Jagger on the Lama Mari, then Aranga Tromori, then Aranga Tropori. They can't, then Kambari Samna, Chatan the Lama Roar Hargom, but the thing not Savari. Tana Moo Seriate. Teba Tana Mu Kona Tor Sayat, Terry. That Dean Dun and the Pemjong Kona you, song Tata Pemjong song by the Sede, Dean Dun and the Barway Dorje Yoga, Kasa Kala Yorimato, and Barway Dorje Kong Koche Korean song Yomari. Kongo Gun Seva Trameba, Yankam Seva Trameba, Jiki Ham Trameba, Dorje Tranyamba, Kang Nawatene Kong you song. Song Jari Tendu, that the Carman Jimmy Chuji Singers, Karmata, Kongan Sin Chick Terry, Tata Oya, that did see the Sogan Drama, Chen Nabatam Pajan Chico, Karma Sayat and Telega or Karma, Dorjitang Teleja or Yendu, Karma Sayat and Telezo Kohodero, Jimmy Chuji Singers in Jipa Meba Sayat, the Kongan Nelokatawa, Totan, Dom Gondazambo, Kong Jortan, Telan Jipa Meba Zolamato Jagger, the other Mulangan Jikrameva. Tundrol and Jikrameva Samje, Nate is a power and local chimbo and something, Tindriking Mari, Chuji Singer Sayate, Singer Sayate. Singe Sayad Momo or Mari, Radaji Jarbo Singe Sayad and Azogum Singe Sayad, Sutsela con Jipat Tart Salary, Rada Tramo Chik Che Chong Yonsu Zobal con Draco Mari, con Jipat Traw Halam Zamia called Topas and Possessa Yomari, Koranke Koranle Chazogolo Power Chevando. They made you Radaji Jarbo Singe, Chuji Singe Sayad Conteri. Conta tendo local chimbo, Doma Nelonga the church had that Condini major tones at the thing, Corasayala Trasa, the Marilla, young de Saya, they call a drum, Yo Mariva. They may do Ninzanga Tobatam, Sheks had, then also in Jikta Yomari Tarsari. Jikta Saya, the Yonsa, the Ninzang the Tobalatini Yonko, the Redan Zambalatini Yonko, the Reda Danzalatini Yonko. Dean Jipa the corner Tartsan, Tartsava Yembasani, Carman Jimmy Chuji Singe, Sayate, ten to ten Chino, Singasogata, Lamancino, Zota, Lama, Colin Lamarota, Tendrike in Saritan, the Intervasaya, the Mesa Kamado, the Tendrike Tonima, Cantop, checking us over the Batanaga Goni, Hudin. Then die Sari.
Opache and Ashama, Dombo.
Ola.
Dombo, it's in Rere. So the Rere Yorava.
Yori, Allah.
Dilla Igno, the Sanyang Gyamtso, Jova, Lodro, Yunten, no, Yunten, Norman.
Oh, that did, oh, that, no. I ain't no mambo, the Tangi Kale Kalende, you go on, so you get mambo, you don't do.
The point of praying to your Lama, your Guru, with devotion is ultimately that your fixation on a self lessen and finally be eradicated. And this requires a certain amount of, in order to approach this particular liturgy, it requires understanding about that, the sort of basic intelligent understanding that that's what you're trying to do, that you're going to have to let go of a fixation on a self. Because the Lama said the basis, or we could say basic theme of this prayer is the recognition that everything that appears to you and everything that exists is, we could say, the display of your Guru, but it's a little bit weak, is your Guru. And oftentimes we don't take that to heart. It's natural for us, or normal for us, to think, my Guru is so-and-so, therefore they must be in such and such location exclusively, and they're such and such person. In fact, the correct understanding of this prayer requires understanding that the Guru, the Lama, is everywhere and is everything. Absolutely everywhere and absolutely everything. Everything you see, whether you know it or not, is the body of your Guru. Everything you hear, whether you know it or not, is the speech of your Guru. And even everything you think, whether you know it or not, is the mind of your Guru. That is what is called mixing your mind with the mind of the Guru. It is also automatically mixing your mind with the mind of all other sentient beings. In neither case, mixing your mind with the mind of the Guru or mixing your mind with the minds of all other sentient beings is actually anything new being mixed with something that wasn't there. The mixing of mind is the recognition that from the very beginning, from the very start, your mind and the mind of Samantabhadra have always been the same. We can't even say that they are mixed. Your mind is Samantabhadra's mind. When we talk about the awakening of Samantabhadra, it all sounds rather like a legend. But it isn't a legend. It's very simple. Buddha nature, Sugata Garbha, is your nature. So therefore, when push comes to shove, you are Sugata Garbha. Sugata Garbha is Samantabhadra. Therefore, do the math. You are Samantabhadra. It's very simple. Understanding that and approaching this prayer in that way will allow blessings to enter into your heart. And as blessings enter into your heart, your fixation on a self will lessen. Your compassion for others, for other beings, will develop and increase. But when I say that your fixation on a self will lessen and your compassion and devotion will increase, I'm not referring to fluctuating emotional states. Fluctuating emotional states naturally will come to an end. That type of compassion that you feel sometimes, that type of devotion that you feel sometimes, is not what we're talking about here. Because what we're talking about here is the unchanging confidence that comes from letting go of fixating on something that has never existed. Fixation on a self can be relinquished and needs to be relinquished because it is a mistake. It is a fixation on something that has never existed, does not exist, will never exist, in fact, could not possibly exist. There can be this thing we think of as a self. The first two syllables of the prayer, I guess it's on page 11, are A and Ho. These are syllables drawn from Sanskrit. A, as taught in both the Dzogchen teachings and also in the chanting the names of Manjushri Tantra, is the supreme sound, the supreme syllable. In a sense, we could say that A includes all Buddha Dharma, all the Buddha taught, and therefore embodies or represents the realization of that. Ho is an expression of joy, delight. So Aho in this case represents your joyous, delighted devotion toward your Guru, because you recognize or realize their realization. Now, then when you chant this, since it's called calling to the Guru from afar, you may think that you need to make a very loud noise. Like maybe if I chant very, very loud or loudly, the Guru will hear me. You can't get the Guru to hear you by shouting. You get the Guru to hear you through devotion. Now, as we go through the prayer, you'll see that it begins with a series of stanzas that are directed. The content is directed at the specific names among the many names that Terchen Barway Dorje received during his life. And we could summarize these names as names of him as Nirmanakaya, or emanation body, Sambhogakaya, or body of complete enjoyment, and Dharmakaya. But it's important to understand that even though we supplicate these different aspects or different kayas of the Guru, we should never make the mistake of thinking that the Guru has a unique location. When we think of our Guru or Lama, we tend to think sometimes they are here among us in this world, visible. At other times they are in a pure realm. So we think it's either or, as though Barway Dorje can only be in one place at any time. He was here, now he's somewhere else, he might come back later. That is an unhelpful and mistaken attitude. The Guru, the Lama, is everywhere, all the time. For example, Guru Rinpoche said of himself, he said, For those with faith, I will not ever have left the land of Tibet. I will always be present right next to you. In fact, for those with faith, I will sleep outside their door. So in that way, the Guru, the Lama, is the Dharmakaya and is everywhere. And we have to remind ourselves not to make exceptions. Like, oh, well, the Guru is most places, but, there are atoms and particles and subatomic particles, and surely the Guru is not each and every one of those. Yes, they are. Every atom, every subatomic particle, every particle that we can discover as we go on doing so is equally the Guru. All appearances, everything that you experience, are your Lama. Don't think, well, this is my girlfriend, and this is my buddy, and this is so-and-so. It's all the Guru. So, whether we're thinking of Guru Rinpoche or Barway Dorje, it is incorrect to think that they are in one place, one location, with one body. And that is the attitude with which we can begin. The text says, "From the powerful wisdom of all victors and their children." So, from what does the Guru, the Lama, Barway Dorje, appear? He appears or arises from the powerful wisdom of all victors and their children. First of all, he arises as a display of wisdom, and it's not a static wisdom. It's a wisdom that has the power, might, that can liberate beings. And that is why that wisdom of all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas can arise as the being we call Barway Dorje. As what does the Guru arise? He arises as the miraculous goodness of their accomplished aspirations and their true words. Now, the basis of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas having this powerful wisdom that can manifest as Barway Dorje is two things. They have realized and accomplished all their aspirations, so that the aspirations they made on the path, when I become Buddha, may be I able to do this, they've accomplished that. We know they've accomplished it because we know they've achieved Buddhahood. And the second is the power of their true words. Because Buddhas and Bodhisattvas have not lied in aeons, countless lifetimes, in every lifetime, in every manifestation, their words have the power of all the truth they've told. That means that when a Buddha says, "Let it be so," it's going to be so. So that is how the powerful wisdom of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas manifests as the goodness of their accomplished aspirations and true words. And it's miraculous or magical. I would now probably translate Jutrul as magical, because Jutrul has the connotation of like holographic reality, where something can be in many places at once. That's a common, it's not the meaning, but it's an association with the word Jutrul. Like a net of magical illusion and so on, where everything contains the whole thing. Each thing contains the whole thing. So that is how Barway Dorje is the magical goodness wherever he is, however he manifests, of the accomplished aspirations and true words that constitute the powerful wisdom of all victors and their children. Therefore, this is the actual activity of Vajradhara's blessing. We talk about Vajradhara's blessing. We have a vague idea. There's this Dharmakaya Buddha, Vajradhara, wonderful. We think of the Guru as Vajradhara. We don't know what that means. What is the true activity of that blessing? It is this. It is the appearance in our world and as our world of Barway Dorje. The fact that Barway Dorje is everywhere, is every atom, is every sound, is our every thought, that is the actual activity of Vajradhara's blessing. The omnipresence of Barway Dorje is the activity of Vajradhara. So after those 4 lines, the 5th line gives the first name of Terchen Barway Dorje, Karma Jigme Chuchi Senge, and De means that. So it's, in Tibetan, you can go back and forth between the second and third person without really abandoning them. In English, you can't do that. You can't say, you have to say, you hear me, or may he hear me. But in Tibetan, you can skip back and forth, which is lovely for Tibetan speakers and a real drag for translators. First of all, Karma Jigme Chuchi Senge is the first, sequentially the first of the Dharma names that Terchen Barway Dorje received in that life. Karma, of course, means activity. Jigme means fearless. And fearlessness, as we know, only comes from one thing: the full eradication of fixation on a self. As long as we believe in a self, we're going to be afraid of something. Barway Dorje is not afraid of anything. And he's not afraid of anything because he knows there is no self to be protected. He has nothing to fear. For example, a lion is not afraid of any other animal. A lion is the most fearless of wild animals because a lion knows that he has no predator. He's the apex predator. A Dharma lion, which is his name here, fearless Dharma lion, is fearless in proclaiming the truth of Dharma, as we often say about the Buddha, fearless in proclaiming the truth. And he's fearless in proclaiming the truth because he's not afraid of anything, because he has no self-fixation. And because he has no self-fixation, his knowledge of Dharma is omniscient and perfect, and therefore he is utterly fearless. Now, this word cheno can be understood in 2 ways. And it sometimes has, you can explain it in both ways. Obviously, when we translate it, we have to make a choice. It can be understood as the indicative sense of the honorific for to know, also as the imperative sense. So, for example, when we say Barway Dorje Cheno, you can think of that as a statement of fact. Barway Dorje knows. He knows. Which is important because that way you understand that you're already heard. You're already seen. Your Guru is already aware of you. So in that way, saying Barway Dorje Cheno increases your faith in a pre-existing situation. But it can also be seen as an imperative, in which case you're saying, Barway Dorje, know, or hear me, as we say. Know this, hear me. And both explanations are said to be helpful at different times. So the first stanza ends, Karma, fearless Dharma lion, hear me. Lasso, contact. It's Gorso.
Lots of Gorna Javamado Bay Yaburis, lots of Katsera, O Terry, Tandi Lama Jambu Sayad, Domba Capso, Be Take Tala, Drutzanwa, Channels of Poet Tony Kobda Matron, Ingi Tony, Yabu Jorio, then the Mat Soso Dang Yabu Jan. Limp to some number of Tawajam to the Lings on your watch. I've got sort of around the conga, the Tawan Kadekos up to so God be young and don't go on. Quiet with Tonyan and Jacorite, quiet tela pay, takes her some number of Tawatela, New Kobana Yichan recorded. There's a case on Tombon Dawata, Debatana Mu Chimbo and Tony Tona. Rangi toba the nubat and baran quality. Toba nubat and baran the capsula, Kitik tela, Semja Remotola, Rangi Namto Yentamji, Tata dig Sartek, Namto dig Yentamji, Jomdro, Namto Yentamji, Drama Mel the Tsubana Yerina, Parku to Comare, T capsatela, Lamak Salap, the Hook Chamber and Yondu, Namdo Tamji Rangi the part, Mewa Tondo quality. These Serna. Limp cups of number of Tawachon with Tussalin, so Kale, Dingo, Lupu, Yo, Tinter Mazi, Depatop, Jim, you mount by and Dumbs, Tata Ripa Koranga Toto, that days are Chitsukama Kalitona, Del and Jiktigan Koratam, the Pai Yogutapta, the cups and Koral the same termazo. Pa Yo, Kora Pa Jij, Jambak, Lupo, Dop. Lupo nets of the Trinchik, same Koragon over the tongue, same Repagan over the Yo. Tangazo Repangoma to the Pacha Yojamarin, then they did Lama Martin, but Lama Meva Sote Yomar, Lama Unizon de Lama take Paja Tacha Gareancha jumped the Domba some tea, Yagale, Lama in Zonki, or they take up Donga Lamas and Boo Chokorte. Don't move toning around so Lama Seriate, Repagon Trine, Rengon Tugal. Til Lama tela Lama zone, Hukiate telambu called the Rimato Jega, Yenda la Cardinja Lama, Zoho, the Trantopga Lama, Zoho, the Tinjinga Lama, Zoho, the Cardin Chimborite, Tongubogazawa Lama Seriatela, Bugona, Kalekauri, Sato Lama Jayu, Semto Lama Chikzone, Lama Japramambo, Jango Condorbo, Konaba, and Lama Japramambo, Kelaki called them Chinze, and a Tongubutoni Lama Chigla, some say the thing called it. Tiana Yega Lama Milisate or Marite and the Ngola Lama the Ngoti Galangot and a Tangi Yo Rupati Ngot and a Sarsingi Mabu Summer and the Teniko Namtoke Jotro Tamji Rupati Londo Pa Tortabak Tangi Tangi there's a yo. Teni La dropped on the Barway Dorje Guru Tona and Decore. Lama Hinguso, Gom, Chujum Coloso, so Gazobo, the Yadam La, Gomna Chori, Yabori, or Main Ladum Doma Tamna, Dijibotona, so Lama, the Zavalama, the Hingugam, Jiwozo, Kangro, Kelan, Dungeon Namkar, Tap Kabde, Gom, let Tamboman and Dungeon Namkan cut search on the Gom, the Lama, the Tap de Wonder Yori. Yana Teni. Tawa days and Tombo and Lama Ninguso, Gom the Lama Rank, same year, me Paragatoni, same Ninguso, Gomna, Salam Yo, Nirwari. Then the Lama Ninguso, Gom. Then tell her what say you do, Ding on Tini Tata, young don the Jake Donna, the young dog and don, the young, the take the soccer, Salap take, Namto Yintam Rangi. Tapa Mewa Chandro do, Rikpa Korak, Ginger the Lamb called it. Teeth cups tela teni, Salap Hukimbon Jona. Tundri record, Tanga so Tawa Jonzo, Tundri Jongo, Ladam Donica, Tundri Dongo, Yanga Tamarta, Lupaki, Donghar Yamta, Chimbo, Cheka, Don Budi, Nagi, Sea Marin, the Lamanam, the Lama Jump in the Donica. Tav long in Dongo. Tawa, thank you. T long the Tawa T Nantini, Tenin Dondo, Teni Lama Salata, Lama Ranse, Yemid and Dinner, Teni Kanhawatam, the Lama Robert, the Chandro, Teni go Tawa T Nantini, Teni Dan Lam Nawan the Ranamando Sondo. Tendriki Chandri, then he keyboard, then he long then Danza Kendo Korwa. Danza the case at the Rangi wound trondale, Taki Omari, Gongja Ravana Giri, Chongo Gonga Gonga Nandi, Gonga Packet at the Namkalan Pandole Mato Jagaran, Navi Pachiata, Navi Comapoya Yomari, Copando Ondole. Then I can also did Lama Salap de Danza in the Pa, Hang the Capsula, Rangi Yihigo, the son troned. Then you ma hipa, he ma hipa, Nana matapa, Ripatri was Luceria, the take ups of Yonkor, to the Lamsan of the Danjo called the tea, the rich in the dick ups on Donya, the Laman Jambu, the rich in the Tavajon and Don called them and said, Tamar the Lopovin and Donya Yomari. Lamaran say, you mean now see Lamaro at the Carabin, then the Lamambu called it. They takes are Lamanam Jorde, Lama Jambu. Chutin Tombonda, Tavanga and Dongoya, get and Ricky Ladabri Yaya, or Terry. Teni Tin Sam Teni, Sagan Yabate, Koregan Sinde, Rangi Tap can come Zinga Rani, to some one the Jopin Javian Jasala, China Gyamtso the Lodi on the Carolama, now singing the Chino. That the Carisena, Rangi Tap can come Zinga Rani, that road. That Janaga road singers on in Jigdi Nasoga Salatu can come read. They make their Sosoga same Quarang or the son of Tangana and Dracoli, Rangi Tapi can come there. That road singer named John in Jabayan kids so. Dindi Kotata do some one to Yopan, them or Tata do some one to Yopate, Jambayang slap. Javian, that Barudo Conan, Jambayang, Truban, Jambayang Murova, that longer Chan, Jamyang Sanla, Chanyang Gyamtso Dorwas, Champa Yang, Soso Kati, Tambichu Gona, Gomba Lone Dorju Yopa, Ripazani Dorju Yopa, Tendrika Lordu Yonti, Sepa Mepa, Chazogolero, Nano, the Mari. Cares in the Kikis and the He Matova, Tenenga de Banagi, Kali in a Parto Soto in Dotal of the Saint of Magoa, Ko Rangi, Kangam Chok, you think it's a thing on the Yambar Yatsan is on the Konganga Chok you go, Madonna Yoba, the Gyamtso, Gyamtso, Deng Sapa, Teana Yigo, Beta Zora Maguba, Song Tamji, Champo Yang, Chanyang in La Tokyo, Champo Yang Seriateke, Ko Suit Tuba. Tamjit go Yi Dongwa Sam Go Nuba, Sam Rama Meba, one the Dotaba, the Rika Changba Yang, Gyamtso Dora, Lodi Yondi, Silodi Yondi, Kedra Lama, Keta Traba Nidije, Jiva Chimbo, Yammer Navasinge, Yermeba, Navasinge, Barway Dorje Chino, son, that the Rika Koregan Saint in Kedra Lama Navasinge in Chinos in Yamba Yang Ola. Correct account in the Dorjang or the Tan, Corrigan Jimmy Chujising, and then Jamba Yang or the Tan and Kedulama Navasingers on that and resound or that. So say that I ain't to Joriality Nabatam Sigi Tondi Vitari, Dorna Sigi Tondi Vina. That then Saboke, and the so he and he your thing and the Mambo here or the that so Gyamtso can Yomari, he then Kepatam Jig Mambo here or the Don't move Chani that. Nelog Tawa, Lama de Ranse Yermeba, Lama la Teba Mu, Humi de Jetaba, Gang Hawatamje, Lama Robert de Jortaba, Gang de Tazu Tubatamje, Lama Song Jortaba, Kokchazogolo, Dorna, Kulam Ganga Kapso, Lama Yilem Mandravare, Lama Robert de Yonzon Chartaba Tony, Tasamna Tantamna. So that Terry, the Mato Jagi, then some tango homari. Oh, Gonda, Kamachundo, he Jortasari. Tintanajai.
When reciting this calling to the Guru from afar, it's helpful to recite it clearly and not too quickly, and so that you feel the meaning of the words, which means that you can recite it in your native language. You can recite it in Tibetan if you want, or you can recite it in English since it's translated. Shabkar Tsogru Rondro, in talking about Vajra songs in general and the practice of calling to the Guru from afar in particular, said, yogis should sing within the view, which means two things. First is that you practice or recite this prayer within your recognition of the view. And it also means that it's best if you sing the prayer. So if you're going to do it in your own language, you will naturally come to make up your own melody. Unless you're doing it in a group, in which case someone will have to decide what the melody is. But it should be, if you're practicing it alone, it should be fairly spontaneous, a melody that means something to you, that is touching. There's nothing wrong with chanting it quietly, but it's not going to be as powerful. For one thing, chanting liturgy very, very quietly can make you a little bit sleepy. And the other thing is it doesn't have the same power. You know, music has tremendous power. And Dharma music, Dharma singing, has the power to stop thoughts. In fact, all music has that. One of the reasons we like music is because we don't become distracted. When we're singing or listening to good music, we don't find ourselves thinking about a million other things. So that is the significance. Here, you want this to be euphonic or euphonious, if you must, and to be musical, so that you don't become distracted by other things. Now, with regard to what Shabkar Tsogru Ronpo said about the view, Lama said it means that before you begin singing this prayer, let go of all thoughts about the past, attempting to prolong the past, all thoughts about the future, attempting to beckon or live in the future, and all thoughts about the present, and simply rest in pure awareness. In preparation for this, and while singing the prayer, don't worry about samsara. Don't think about how afflicted you are or how many problems you have. Relax and sing in a state of simple, vigilant, or aware mindfulness. I think Lama said that all of you have gained some recognition of pure awareness, of Rigpa, because you all have a Lama. Now, sometimes people will say, when they first take the refuge vow, that, well, now I have a Lama, I have a refuge Lama, and that's okay. But basically, when we use the term Lama in this practice lineage, we refer to the person who pointed out pure awareness to us. We could have countless lamas, meet countless great lamas and receive empowerments and teachings from them, but those are called kind lamas or helpful lamas. There's only one who definitively points out the nature of your mind. Therefore, we have a saying, although you might have 100 lamas who have achieved the bodhisattva levels, there will be only one in your mind. So, approach this prayer by resting in the nature pointed out to you by your Lama. Then if you want to practice this somewhat more elaborately, you can begin by reciting the Guru Sadhana of Terchen Barway Dorje called the Spontaneous Song of Awareness Emptiness. And in which case, then you develop the visualization of Terchen Barway Dorje present within your heart. If you don't have time or don't wish to recite that whole Guru Sadhana before doing this, then you can simply just chant or sing this. In which case, how you imagine the Guru is up to you. Generally speaking, for beginners, it is easiest to imagine the Guru in the sky in front of you, facing you. And it is appropriate for those who have more experience of the view to imagine the Guru in their heart, because that brings blessings more quickly. Either is perfectly acceptable and will work with this prayer. And then recite it, chant it, sing it melodically. And the blessing of the words themselves will expose your pure awareness, naked, pure awareness. For that to work without hindrance, it's helpful if you not cling to a sense of your ordinariness, your being an afflicted sentient being, but recite it within the view. Since self-fixation is an error, since self-fixation is fixation on something that has never existed, when the egg of self-fixation cracks, the Garuda inside, your Buddha nature, can fly right away. It doesn't come out and then have to grow and gradually grow feathers and then gradually be pushed out of the nest or any of that. The Garuda's already fully developed. All that has to happen is you have to crack the egg, and this will help to do that. The fact, when you have an indescribable experience of pure awareness, that is a sign that the egg is starting to crack. So don't approach this within a state of ordinary afflicted misery, but approach it seeing everything that appears and exists as the Guru. And now we turn to the second stanza, so the bottom half of page 11. This addresses Barway Dorje as Manjushri. We could say an emanation of Manjushri, but in English when we say emanation too much and display and all these things, it distances us. What we're saying here is very simple. Barway Dorje is Manjushri. So here you invite him from the natural pure realm, which means the pure realm which is a natural part of this planet. We know where it is, Mount Wutaishan, the five-peak mountain in China. The five-peak mountain is a place on this planet where Manjushri is particularly present. Manjushri is everywhere, but he is known to be approachable on the five-peak mountain. For example, the great Pandit Vimlamitra is also there. So from the natural pure realm, the five-peak mountain, comes the blessing of Manju Ghosha. Manju Ghosha means gentle melody. It's another name for Manjushri. Manifestly present throughout the three times. manifestly present means it's not the case that Manjushri is unknown, invisible, and unapproachable. Manjushri is well known as always having been the father of all Buddhas, the primordial Buddha, as being very present now, and is always going to be present as all future Buddhas. So this blessing of Manjushri that arises as Barway Dorje is manifestly present throughout the 3 times. Then the next line says, the qualities of your intellect are an ocean of euphony. Also note, for those reading in the Tibetan, the second line from the bottom has an extra syllable that was not written by Terchen Barway Dorje. It's Zangyang Gyamtso Durwa Lodruchi Yuntin. There's no no after that. The no got put there because they saw the no below and they decided 2 no's are better than 1 no. But there's no no there. Okay. So to take it in the order of the Tibetan, Zangyang, Zangbeiyang. Zangbeiyang is the, what I translated here as euphony, because I didn't want it to be too long, means the euphony of Brahma. Brahma, among worldly beings, Brahma has the best voice. When Brahma sings or speaks, it is as powerful as 1,000 dragons or 1,000 thunderclaps, but as sweet and as euphonic as any sound, in fact, more than any sound in the world. It also has a quality of infinite variety, which is why it says Zangyang Gyamtso, an ocean of Brahma's euphony. Now, what makes this line meaningful is a word that for some reason I omitted in the translation, which is the word spontaneous. So change an ocean to a spontaneous ocean, because it's the word dorwa. Dorwa means to burst forth. A funny kind of analogy that sometimes uses in Tibetan is like a burp. You don't plan to burp. It just bursts forth. Well, in the same way, Terchen Barway Dorje does not have to think about what he says. Manjushri, Barway Dorje, think of it either way. Everything they say is perfect, perfectly expressed, perfectly euphonic, without any kind of thought, without any kind of laborious composition. And then this second stanza ends with a second Lama, second name, for Barway Dorje, which is Lion of Utterance. Now, the term learned Siddha Guru means that he is both learned or wise and attained. He has achieved a siddhi. And Lion of Utterance is sometimes specifically used to refer to a specific form of Manjushri, but in this case, it makes it clear that the qualities of Barway Dorje's euphonic teaching and speech are supreme. Just as a lion is utterly fearless, the fearlessness here manifests in the appropriateness, power, and euphony of everything he says. So again, the second stanza ends with Learned Siddha Guru, Lion of Utterance, hear me. Lama concluded this by saying, there's a lot that could be said about every word in this prayer. Scholars would want to, break it down and analyze it. and talk about the scriptural origins and associations of each term. But it's of more importance to approach the prayer with an attitude of heartfelt devotion. The attitude that enables you to transform your perception so that all the time, in every waking moment, you perceive appearances as the Guru's body, all sound as the Guru's speech, and all thought as the Guru's mind.
That's all. Oh, dedication. Zonam de tamje zibani tomne nibe rana bonze jega nanje bala roba
Sibe
zole rowa yo gewan de jewo gan sona yige zozo de sona yige lezon Damba Ganye Dobar Yo Sanjo Sene Rambo Je Maje Bana Je Je Jeba Nyamba Meba Gone Gonda Bevar Yo Simje Damje De Dan Denje Je Ngenro Damje Dodo Dombar
Jangju Semba
Kanda Zar Yo Be De Da Ganje Malam Rama Yo Sabye me don rebe sangha ju sige zonda jabe traji sho. Thank you, Lama. Thank you, everyone. Bye. Bye. Have a nice lunch. And see you 2 o'clock.